preaching, which is right, but a lot of them are pimping the people with the tithes and offerings.
All right. No. I got this one. How many of y'all belong to a church? That's what you should be asking. We ask that question all the time as if churches are not comprised of people. Right. We act like there's some institution that's out there when we say the church. The church is made up of people. It's not a pastor. It's not a first lady. It's made up of people. So the real issue is, do we have congregations leading as opposed to always asking that very question? The other thing that I always say is, what specifically is your church doing? See, I can't control what every other church does. But if I'm not holding my own pastor and my own church accountable, I can't be that concerned about everybody else. And so we've got to stop ignoring the people that make up the churches and begin to say it's not on a pastor, it's really on the people sitting actually in the pews. Now, earlier there was a question that said, are other communities having this discussion? And to a certain extent, they are not, because they don't have to. And what I keep getting at, if you heard me from the beginning, we are having a backwards conversation. We continue to say with role models, we need more role models, we need more mentors, because we are trying to operate DCBA versus ABCD. And so to change this whole dynamic, we're going to have to confront how are we operating every day and challenging our own, because we can't keep having the backwards conversation. And so I think that's what we sort of keep happening. So other communities don't have it. And I talked to one brother, and he said he's an interracial, talking to Van Jones. And Van Jones says, very interesting, he said, I'm in an interracial marriage. I hear my wife talking to her daddy about interest rates and stocks and bonds. And then he said, yet my conversations with my family members are about paying light bills. We might want to think about the conversations that we have. Next question, Tommy.
Roland, they told me this is the last question. But
okay, we got two more questions.
Go ahead. You go.
Okay, first of all, it's supposed to go to 6 o'clock, so I don't know what we're doing 5:30 to 6.
I don't know either.
Going right ahead.
You're in charge.
Tommy, since we the moderators, going right ahead.
All right.
They going to turn our microphones off?
Okay, so my question is, as African Americans and knowing our African history, do any of you feel, and anybody can speak to, from the entertainment sector, do you feel that the content that is celebrated and pushed and marketed to our communities, do you feel that there's intention behind that?
Okay.
I think that the thing that I've gotten the most out of this panel so far is the question that the gentleman from Chicago, but I'm now
there's about 4 of them. So.
I'm starting to think everybody's from Chicago.
Which one?
Are we in Chicago? But he stated, which is a very poignant question. Is anybody else having this debate? And me being an entertainer, reflecting on your question, it's funny how a lot of the other ethnic groups that I work with in Hollywood don't necessarily have to worry about some of the things and the images that are created, for they don't even create them for their ethnic group, just for the world to consume, have it be a reflection of their ethnic group in and of itself. What was your question?
Her question was, the content that's being produced, that's being disseminated, do you believe that it is intentional?
Intentional. I don't necessarily think that it is intentional. However, at times there may be someone who is writing, for a particular ethnic group that does not belong to that ethnic group. And at that point, it's the responsibility of that actor or actress to be responsible and to correct or have a conversation about why something may not work or why something may be considered offensive to this group, I find myself having, those conversations quite a bit, especially, if a writer who is in a vacuum, maybe writing something that I feel may be perceived as offensive, for my character to say or do. And I think that it's, when you're in a creative space, those conversations come up all the time. I mean, they don't just come up when it comes to race. They also come up with, well, would a U.S. Marshal do this? Or, would he pull his gun out on somebody without them, appearing to be a threat? I mean, those are just creative conversations, but at times they do extend themselves to ethnicity and race as well.
It's also a question of, frankly, us being honest about shutting some stuff down.
Right.
I mean, look, we can sit here and we can complain about an image, and I'll put it to you this way. Black folks talk about, we want to see positive images, we want to see stories about us and things of that. Well, okay, fine. Well, explain to me who the hell watches Basketball Wives. No. I mean, I need somebody to show me the press release. Show me the press release of any black sorority denouncing those images.
It's true.
Show me black women rising up on black campuses where they dominate, saying we don't want this crap. So at some point we can complain about what somebody else is showing. We can also say, no, we're not watching that crap. Because here's what's interesting. If TV One showed Basketball Wives, we would be questioned saying, how dare you? But we say nothing to VH1.
That's true.
So they can show it and we'll watch it, but if a black network shows it, that's wrong. But then the problem is, from a black network, we need ratings, and so therefore, if you're watching mess, what else are we going to show? But then you get mad if we got mess. And so at some point, the ownership has to also come in terms of where we are. I'll make the last point. I interviewed Cuba Gooding Jr. and Terrence Howard at the Congressional Black Caucus. And do understand how systems operate. George Lucas has a new film coming out called Red Tails, dealing with the Tuskegee Airmen. It's an action film, all black cast. George Lucas, Star Wars, considered one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. All 7 studios told him no. George Lucas told somebody black, I have an understanding now to a certain degree what it means to be black in Hollywood. Wow. All 7 told George Lucas no. George Lucas is funding that film. They are actually literally barnstorming around the country, getting folks galvanized because Hollywood said, we don't know how to market it. How in the hell you don't know how to market a film about American soldiers? Right.
Can I jump in real quick?
Go ahead, Laz.
I played a Buffalo soldier in Miracle at St. Anna, done by Spike Lee, who he had to go to Italy to get the funds to finance the movie because no studio domestically would finance it as well. But here's the caveat. When the movie came out in theaters, we did not support it.
That's my point.
We had to show up.
Now, I love to see a success story, and I love to see Tyler Perry #1 on the Forbes list. But then you have this conversation within, our people criticizing Tyler Perry, but we support his films. But then you have a film that is about your history, our history. Back when brothers weren't allowed to fight, next to, a white man in the same sharing the same uniform, and we don't support the film. So George Lucas can't get a studio to finance his film when they look at Miracle in St. Anna and say, well, there isn't an audience for it anyway. African Americans aren't going to go see it.
Well, in fact,
here's the example.
Just Right made $42 million, and they said essentially no more black romantic comedies because that didn't hit a certain number. And so that's what happens, the same thing. And so again, it speaks to where we are. But the last point on Tyler Perry, we hate Madea in the dress, we criticize it, but then he does For Color Girls, then we still get mad. I'm going, damn, make up y'all mind. Nobody else tried to put that movie on the big screen, and folks still hated on that. Tommy.
My name is Kevin Hill, and I'm part of the Leaders of Tomorrow program through the National Black NBA Association.
Is that the one you were a part of? No? Okay.
Oh, and my question was about, you were talking earlier about education and how we need to have parents involved. How do you think we should do that? Because I know in my education, my parents were very involved and told me college is the only option. There's no other way.
All right, Terrence, go ahead.
I'll go first. I agree with the statement, and I in a similar boat. I grew up in a household where college wasn't about are you going, it was where are you going. But let's face it, there are a number of households where the parents may not be equipped, or they may not have the proper level of training to be able to help their kids from an educational standpoint. So I believe there's a need for programs. I believe there's a need for us to continue to assist parents with helping prepare them to focus on and stress education during those early years. Because I really think what you put into a child early on goes to what they become down the road.
Want to answer that?
No, I will. I think that, and you mentioned basketball wives. Now, I was brainstorming about this, about this session.
Ain't many brains on that show, dog.
And you're right. And most of the TV shows that are supported don't really have too many brains, if you will, in general. But
Except Washington Watch on TV1, 11 a.m. Sunday.
Except that one.
But, I mean, it seems like within the community, our community, we're placing emphasis on shows that really don't serve a purpose. I mean, the sole purpose of, like, basketball wives is to entertain. But what type of education is being presented? So one thing that I want to talk about is when you have these shows that appear on TV, it's one thing for them to appear, but like if you have a child, let's say that's 7, he may not or she may not be able to discern whether that's reality or whether it's not reality. So it's up to the family to also say, you know what, either we're going to try to restrict this in some sense. Am I off?
You're off, man.
Oh, that's not even cool.
Come on, talk right here.
I was going to say, shake mine.
Either we need to restrict them in some capacity, or the parents need to say, this is not real life. And so what I like to see in general is, us as a community putting more emphasis on education, because it's one thing to start in the family, but if students and children in general can go to TV and say, hey, I see all these black guys going to college and they're wearing suits and they're doing well, and this is what happening to them in corporate America, they'll start to emulate it, but we don't see that.
Exactly.
All right, here's a practical thing you can do right now. First of all, you have kids or nieces and nephews. If they in the car 10 minutes alone, they got to read. Understand? In my car, they leave books. We're not watching DVDs. We're not listening to music. You've got to read. That's first. Secondly, we can't keep talking about being the village. You might have to take your sister or your brother's kids. Now, I know some of y'all saying, ooh, I don't know about all that. But you can't keep running around talking about it takes a village and you the damn village, and you keep leaving. I know some folks tripping. Understand, my wife and I took my sister's 4 daughters, and she ain't have a choice. I said, you got 2 choices, give me your kids or give me your kids. Because understand, I made it clear that I'm a godfather and I'm an uncle, and if I stood at the altar saying I'm standing in the gap for the daddy, and the daddy's sorry as hell, I can't just be sending birthday gifts and Christmas gifts. And so that might have to you might have to do that. You might have to Skype or call your nieces and nephews and say, read over the phone. You have to sit here and challenge at every point. You might sit here and say, send me your kids for the summer because I'm putting them in an educational program for that summer. We can't just sit here and you might say, yeah, that cost me some money. I might have to, I'm trying to save me some money, but do understand, they will be begging off of your kids in 18 years. And so you might say, hey, it's I can't do it now, but you will pay the price eventually. If you have ignorant brothers and sisters, they are grown and ignorant, but give your nieces and nephews a shot at this country. And yes, I told my sister and her husband they are ignorant. And I said it in church when I preached Men's Day. He was on the front row, and I said, he's sorry. And he told my wife, he told me that. He said it. Tommy, go ahead, last question.
Well, this is the last question. We want to encourage all of you